All right, hello, good evening. Welcome to Axiom Flux, Season 4, Episode 4, 3rd of December 2017. PJ, I've got Stav and Black Hole Bridger. How are we both doing? And Patricia as well. First appearance.
Hello. Howdy doody.
Yep, Stav.
Hello,
Microphone.
PJ.
Patricia. All right, so we're going to give this topic a go, hopefully. Everything should work smoothly, although we just have lost Paul. He'll be back. So, Episode 4, Veganism. What do we know about veganism stuff? Out and out.
I think it's a more extreme thing than vegetarianism, as much as I absolutely know absolutely nothing about it, but I'm all ears and I'm hoping to learn a lot from Patricia and Paul when they come back and when they do. But you've got a few articles to kick us off, haven't we?
Yep, that's right. I've got a few articles. One of my articles not actually being on my screen at the minute. So I'm going to switch these two articles round and read from the other one first. I'll give this a start then. So my first article is 10 fantastic vegan facts. Being vegan is healthy and good for the environment. But do you know all of the following interesting facts about the trending lifestyle? Some of these might surprise you. Here are the 10 vegan facts that can help you go vegan and stay that way. Number 1. Grain that is used to feed livestock for meat production could feed 1.3 billion people. Number 2 is wheat is earth friendly. You've probably heard that it takes a lot of water to produce meat. In actual fact, it takes 2,500 gallons to make just 1 pound of meat. On the other hand, it only takes 25 gallons of our valuable water to grow 1 pound of wheat. Most cases of food poisoning, up to 80%, are due to infected meat, and that's at number 3. Number 4 is reports that vegans are healthier are not myth-based, according to the American Dietetic Association, the ADA. People who follow a vegan or vegetarian diet tend to display low blood cholesterol, low blood pressure, less chance of getting colon and prostate cancer, and a decreased rate of ischemic heart disease or ischemic heart disease. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that, as I'm not that very well familiar with it. Number 5 is shockingly, every hour in the United States, 500,000 animals are killed for their meat. Number 6 is although people are consuming too many antibiotics for their own health, about £3 million annually in the US alone, animal receives even more. Livestock are fed up to £17.8 million a year, and this number could actually be less than what is really being given to them. You're actively doing your bit to save the forest by being vegan is number 7. Forests are alarmingly cleared so that the land can be used for crops so that meat-based diets can be produced. Every year, just one person who sticks to a vegetarian diet will save an entire acre of trees. Number 8, by not eating meat, you're also helping to ease the problem of pollution. Almost 20% of pollution that is man-made originates from the meat industry. This has placed factory farming ahead of transporting how much it contributes to the planet's greenhouse effects. And number 9, contrary to popular belief, there are many supermarket products that are vegan. These include even processed snack foods like Oreos. In brackets, they don't contain real dairy. And dark chocolate. A good tip when shopping, products that are listed as cholesterol-free or often vegan, as bad cholesterol only comes from animal products. Number 10, vegan foods are frequently lower in calories because they give a miss to unhealthy fats. So there's a quick little list of 10 things there to help those that wanted to go vegan, and hopefully help them stay that way. What do you think? Any thoughts? Any thoughts,
Oh,
Doug?
right. Yeah. It seems to be heavily against the cholesterol side of things. I don't think that needs to be necessary. It's what it seems to be, or what we've been told about cholesterol. Apart from the amount of forest that's being cleared due to, you know, cattle and that, I don't agree with. I think they've taken too much of the Amazonian forest, destroyed many of things that would be far more beneficial to us. I agree with that. Yeah, it seems a good idea for people to take on that side of it more than anything else. Again, it's the industrial farming type side of everything. I mean, I was brought up very briefly on a farm, country farms, and everything was local. It wasn't done in an industrial way. Everybody healthily. But again, once the corporate cabal grabs hold of these things, it gets into over the top, shall we say, for greed more than people individually. I think if people individually make their own decisions about it, that's one thing, and then perhaps demand for the products will ease on this side of it, because the most disgusting thing about all of that is the industrial farming, which is something I'm very set against anyway. So there we are. That's my thoughts on that article, little bits and pieces. But overall, little informative bits and pieces, yeah.
All right, over to you, Paul. What's your thoughts?
It's the amount of meat that people consume now. I mean, when we was a lad, we had meat maybe at dinner times. Definitely on a Sunday it was meat. But most people are having meat in the morning, such as bacon and what have you, black sausage maybe to go with it. All that consumption of meat, as you were saying about our precious water, how much water there is to raise a cow and how much there is to raise a crop.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, there's many more. We've got other articles and such, but I think we're kind of familiar with these. Okay, so my next article is not the one that I've sent you, Stav, so I'll probably have to read this one out too. You're not having a link. And this is a little bit on when veganism came about. As some of you may be surprised to hear that it's probably not as recent as you thought. So as I just try and find this last link, and I've got it here, loading up the page. Oh, it's not going on that one, is it? I've got it. So it's this Express article, which starts and launches with a lot of ads. So, which is unfortunate, really, because the information that's on this article is, you know, rather good. Which is a common theme now. They seem to push all this good information, but you have to go through obstacle courses and that many ads and things just to even get to it. And I don't know if that's deliberate or what these days, but or you get the whirling page effect where the page just never loads.
Information's buried in adverts.
That's the one. Yeah. I think we're all common with that these days. All right, let me show you this one then. We'll scrap that one. We'll come back to that later on. This is a recent video of a guy called Earthling Ed.
we've lost PJ. We seem to have lost PJ, Paul. So
oh wow!
I think it was just a little bit too much. I think what's happened recently with Google and Hangouts, and I think people are generally across YouTube, is if you try and share a page or information, it's absolutely overloaded with adverts and other information. So that what it does is it takes up a hell of a lot of your bandwidth if you're sharing that and you're live streaming, and most computers just can't handle it. Or the bandwidth can't handle it, and something gives, and that's what's happened to PJ. I think we're going to have to do things a lot differently in the future, because this platform
at the moment.
This platform is sunk, I think.
Yeah, when I was doing it regularly last time, we never had this trouble.
No, that's what's happened. I've noticed. I've been on a Linux machine for 3 or 4 months, and then I got back onto Windows, and I have found the change has been unbelievable, Paul.
Ridiculous. Absolutely.
Yeah. I can surf much more easier and get around on Linux than I can on Windows. That's what I found. But obviously you can't get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different.
You put Linux on mine, and
no, I haven't. No.
Oh,
I was saying to you, I wanted to.
Oh right.
My laptop that got broke, I had Linux on it, and I never had any problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good.
We might have to get that sorted this end as well then.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether I mean, let me see if I can load up this video while PJ's trying to get back in with the show a little bit. We'll see if I disappear. But I'm not sure if it's actually or not. One which, let's see what we get. 10 facts about it. No, that's what we had. Perhaps it's this one here. Let's see. Oh, here. Well, what I'm going to do, Paul, you can let me know if my screen shares. That is. Yeah.
BJ's back now.
I'm not liking that. I'll share my screen.
Yeah, I'm back. And after tonight's episode, I'm going to do. I'll just announce one of these future topics that we're going to be covering is new ways to YouTube. We've got to get away from it all. We've got to stop, complying to these people because they're just not providing us a working service that's fit for purpose. So therefore, we should just boycott them. So that's official from Axiom Flux on tonight's topic. So yeah, what we're doing, are we going to be able to play these videos through you, Stav, or Paul? Where did we get to?
I've just tried to do it, and because it's a Facebook page, it's a video on a Facebook page. It started to load it, but everything started to slow up. Started to lose Hangouts, and it's just too much. They put so much on it now. They know full well that you can't do this on Google Hangouts anymore. Well, I don't think you can, because it's not just you that's suffering. We're all suffering, PJ.
Well, we've been doing this for several, long enough now, and we'd never really used to get as many problems, if any of these problems. We used to have the usual case where if one of you had a bad internet connection, it could lag a bit or distort the audio when you're trying to scroll on a page. We had them basic problems, but we've never had things as like someone's got control of your microphone and just muting you every 2 seconds so you can't speak. Your mouse freezing, which is a new one on me. It's like someone's pulled your mouse out. So I don't know what's going off, but all I do know is we've got to find new platforms. We need people out there to try and do the research now. Stav sent me one yesterday, which were very interesting. But all this is sending us off topic for what we're supposed to be talking about tonight, which is veganism. So, after just restarting all my pages, I've lost all my articles that I had ready to show. The videos don't seem to work, but I will put the links in the end of the show. In fact, I can get the video to work by the audio, that is. So you're going to hear the audio, and if you do want to watch the video, you're going to have to go and check the link out direct to pull that one up. So let's play this veganism Earthling Ed. Bear with me a second. Okay, we're ready? I'm going to start this one off now. Earthling Ed.
Moral point of view that you think it's not moral to...
Well, how do you morally justify it? How do you morally justify...
Very easily.
Go on then.
Okay, I produce the animals that I eat.
Yeah.
I look after them to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
They're produced on my own farm.
Yeah.
I see them when they're born. I look after
Yeah.
them, spend all day and all night looking after them.
Yeah.
And so, morally,
Yeah.
I feel I'm justified to then
But
eat them.
what about morally? But
People
why?
have been done it, people have eaten meat for millions
But we've
of years.
also murdered and raped each other for millions of years. It doesn't make, just because we've done something for a long period of time, doesn't make it moral today.
Strangely enough, I've never done that.
Morally, what's the difference between taking the life of a dog and taking the life of a cow for food? Well, because in China they eat dogs, don't they? And morally, is that different or is it the same?
Well, if they want to eat dog, I wouldn't want to eat it.
No, why wouldn't you want to eat it?
Oh, you package.
Yeah, they're lovely animals. They love us, right?
Yeah.
But don't you think these animals can show love and affection too? What moral justification would you use to slaughter, like, the lives of these cows? Like, how do you morally justify that?
Well, I'm a Christian, and it's in the Bible to eat meat.
But in the Garden of Eden, what did Adam and Eve eat?
Does it make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, they were vegan in the Garden of Eden. I think that the reality is with religion is God has never said that we have to or don't have to.
Okay.
And it becomes like a choice between the two of us.
Exactly.
So
it's a choice.
it becomes almost irrelevant about God because, again, it becomes personal. And again, the question is, what moral justification do we use? Obviously, when the Bible was written, we probably had to live. Now we don't. So I think in the eyes of God, this is my personal opinion, in the eyes of God, because we had the option between not killing his creatures or killing his creatures, morally, he'd prefer if we didn't.
There are also massive...
I spend my life looking after animals, you people don't. So don't
I spend my life trying to stop animals from being killed.
No, you don't.
You send them to slaughter, man. You may look after them now, but ultimately you sell them to be killed.
You don't spend your life. You don't get up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mate, I don't eat the animals, which means they don't die in the first place. You're the one sending them to slaughter.
You don't spend your life looking after animals. Don't bring them.
You don't look after them. You use them until they're profitable for you, and then you sell them to be killed.
That's not how it works.
But you're making money off them. You sell them to make money. So how does it work? Tell me. You love these animals, and then what? You love them when
these animals, when they go, they go.
And so you love animals, but you sell them to be killed. How do you love them? If you love your dog, man, but you wouldn't send your dog to be killed.
Because I don't even own a shotgun. I don't go shooting. I don't like killing animals.
But you sell them to be killed.
Oh, you got your point, and I've got mine.
What about the animals? What's their preference is to live, right? So who are we to deny them that?
I ain't got an argument for that.
Yeah, I mean, like as a human being, like as a species, and also as an individual, what right do you have to take the life of a living being that doesn't want to die? All you have to do is see the animals as victims, and you understand why it becomes an immoral act to kill them.
You're seeing them as a victim. I'm not.
Yeah. But why are they not victims in your eyes? They think and feel, right? They feel pain. They have an inherent preference to live their life like you and I do.
I don't inflict pain on them.
No, but they die. They suffer and die, and they don't want to. So even if they live a lovely life, they still die.
In the most humane way.
But what does the word humane mean? What does the word humane mean to you, and as an objective definition?
Well, not having pain.
It's compassion and benevolence. But how do we compassionately kill an animal that doesn't want to die for an unnecessary reason?
Well, yeah, but you've taken that argument to a point where I can't argue against that.
Because it's subjective.
No, but I can't argue with saying that animal doesn't want to die.
Exactly.
Because I am nowhere near that point that you're coming from to be able to argue.
But objectively speaking, we know that these animals have a preference to live their life.
At the end of the day, it's everybody's own conviction.
But at the end of the day, when there's a victim, like if I want to bet on dog fighting, that's my personal choice. It doesn't make it moral just because I want to throw a couple of quid down on dog fighting, does it?
But no, that's everybody's got their own judgments, haven't they?
But then if morality is totally subjective, then surely rape and murder and theft and mugging and arson are totally moral because everyone has their own personal convictions. There was a necessity for us to eat meat that doesn't exist anymore.
Well, there is for me, because I like eating meat.
But the enjoyment of it doesn't make it moral. Like, people enjoy betting on dog fighting and all sorts. That doesn't make it moral, though, does it?
Doesn't say.
Exactly. We require more than sensory pleasure to morally justify something. They feel, don't they? And they feel pain.
Of course they do, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Wait. What was that bit? They feel pain. Of course they do. Well, not in UK anymore, as our politicians seem to think that animals have no emotions, nor do they feel any pain. So.
It's our right to inflict suffering and ultimately death on them if they don't want to feel that. I presume you've been raised in a generation thing, and it's probably what you've been taught to do by your family, and that's fine. I don't think you're a bad person for it. My son, but you can't kill animals if you love them. You can't kill them if you love them. That's the only thing, right? Well, you can't kill them if you love them.
Have you ever heard of euthanasia?
Yeah, but that's only because they have to die because they're suffering and in pain. These animals aren't suffering or in pain, and they don't want to die.
Yeah, you're very good at arguing, but seriously.
Look, I'm just trying to put forward an objective reasoning. All you have to acknowledge that non-human animals, their worth of life is higher than the sensory pleasure we get from taste alone. That's all we have to acknowledge. And if we can establish that the life of a sheep is worth more than our taste buds, then that's why it becomes morally disingenuous to eat them.
Right. Any thoughts, guys? Any thoughts?
He's got a solid point. The cow doesn't want to die. That's a solid point, yeah. And
well, then try. Oh, sorry, Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead.
All I was, he can make a good argument, but then anybody can about a subject that they feel passionately about to drive them. Again, that's down to it's all down to personal choice. I mean, how does he feel then? A white shark has got the right to take a human being. If a human being is swimming in the sea, there's nothing wrong with that. A Siberian tiger can jump on an antelope and rip its neck out and cause the same anguish to the animal, but that's okay because that's an animal. A lion can do the same, a cheetah can do the same, a panther can do the same. Any predatory or apex animal, it's quite okay to kill another animal. I'm not going to turn around to you if it's a Siberian tiger and you're near the cubs. It's not going to say, sorry, mate, I don't want to kill you because you're going to feel pain. I feel bad about it and it's against my morals.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, the guy can argue. The guy is good at arguing, like he said. But
I think when he made the point about when the guy said he loves his animals, and then I agree with him when he says, how can you love something and then want to kill it? So, yeah, he is good at arguing, but his approach at the very start was kind of quite aggressive. You know, because I think, as you said, you rightly pointed out, he was passionate. But I think he couldn't get it right in his head that the guy said he loved his animals, he looked after them, cared for them. And when they get to a certain time, they're all fattened up and they're ready for, you know.
Okay.
And, yeah, so I think he was just, you love them, but you kill them.
Yeah, I think what did it for me, although I'm not yet a vegan, I must admit, is poultry side of things, the chickens and the eggs. That's what did it for me. I mean, what's the average chicken's life? Is what 8 week old before it even? What's 8 weeks? 8 weeks is hardly anything, is it really?
Hasn't had no life.
I think again, it comes down. I think we're vegans and people who are carnivores. I don't know what you're going to call people that eat meat on the vegan side of argument, but there has to be a common ground, and I think I would agree on common ground is the factory industrial side of the animals where they don't actually get much of a life at all. Where a free range chicken can live quite a I don't know what a chicken thinks its life is. I can't think like a chicken. I'm a human, but farms how they used to be run in a small scale. There's plenty of small farms, free range chickens, all that grazed and produced milk and that sort of thing. How do you take it? Do you go, well, do you want to give animals rights where you have to ask a cow whether it wants to give its milk or not? I mean, it starts to get a little bit too silly in my book. But these people make arguments out of it.
Animals did get rights. Animals did get rights.
In some countries, yeah.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia has just given an artificial intelligent robot rights and made it a citizen. It doesn't mean to say it's not a crazy bloody world.
I even heard some. I can't recall the country or place where it were, but didn't the dog get a birth certificate at one point? And
yeah, and I think it was
something to do with
marriages
as well. Marrying dogs, getting married, and things like that. Yeah, it was just bizarre. But anyway, that's on another end of loving animals, I suppose.
Yeah, there has to be balance drawn here, doesn't there? You know.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I mean, if somebody wanted to talk about human beings getting their shit together, on with each other first and foremost. I mean, if you can tackle that one, if you can tackle people, you know, not killing each other in wars and God knows what, you know, that would be first.
It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how humans treat other humans. If someone isn't going to treat animals like badly, then those that love animals are going to not be happy, and they're not going to agree to that. So you're always going to get that collision with people, no matter how well people can live together and get along. It's the animals where I think we should base things from, and most of the stuff from what I've researched, always comes from learning from animals, like to many inventions and things like the jet engine, for one, all designed from observing animals. So without really, what would we have? It'd be one thing that I'd say.
They're just a food source to us.
Yeah, now we've learned everything that we need to learn from them. They just become a source of food.
And then it's become a big company's bottom line.
Yeah.
Well, I've had my chicken for several years.
There is, scientific evidence. What does that mean? Plants feel pain.
Yeah.
Plants, vegetables, and the vegan's going to eat them. I mean, how far does it go? It gets to a point where you won't be able to eat anything, or you won't even be able to breathe the oxygen, because you'll be doing damage to the ether or the atmosphere with your nasty carbon dioxide.
even all the rocks would be known as sentient beings, and they'll all have on them, stamped on them, "Don't walk on me."
Mm.
I think really, just like the great white shark in his environment, there is a balance. Even the big, the lioness who takes the maybe the young and vulnerable, but that's tough, Bambi. But mostly they take the elder one at the back of the earth, the vulnerable one who can't keep up with the rest anymore. So in the lioness's head, I don't know, perhaps she thinks she's doing that out of love. The old girl out of misery, because she can no longer run with the herd anyway. I don't know. Think about that one. I don't know.
I've got another video here, which has a few more stats on it, and it's UK based as well, so I'll be playing that. I'll be playing this now. Let me take it back.
It's one of the fastest growing food movements, and now a new study shows that 1 in 5 of us in the UK would consider a vegan diet. There are now 500,000 vegans in the UK, and the diet has risen by 250% in the last decade. Well, as well as being cited for its health benefits, veganism is said to have positives on the planet. So should we all be going vegan? We can talk to a number of people who are here. You're all going to have to introduce yourselves to me, because I haven't met you before. Tim Sheaf is a professional English free runner. Yeah. Hi Tim, good to meet you.
Thank you.
Sean and Jessica are a couple and became vegans just 2 weeks ago. Yep. I'm fascinated to know how that's going. Fresh indeed. Emily. Hi Emily, good to see you. Emily became vegan 7 months ago. And we can speak to Ayala Spiro, who is Nutrition Science Manager at the British Nutrition Foundation. Hi, good to see you. And Sophie Medlin, who is a lecturer in nutrition at King's College London. Hi, good to see you all. Okay, so Tim, let's start with you. Being a professional athlete and a vegan, some people may think that kind of doesn't go together naturally.
Yeah, I think the experience has changed all of that for me and for anyone that's looked into it. There's plenty of athletes all over the planet now going vegan for their health, to improve their skills, and they're seeing themselves go up in the rankings. And for me, the experience of it, I felt so much better within days. I felt a difference in me as an athlete. It was a test and it was a challenge because I thought maybe I will get worse. I didn't really know. I thought the protein myth and all this stuff, but actually the experience of it was, there was reward in my decision, and it's just gone from strength to strength from that.
Emily, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's changed sort of my whole view on eating and what I put in my body.
So what do you eat? Give me an example of what you would eat in an average day.
Lots of potatoes, steamed vegetables. There's loads of vegan cheeses. Every supermarket now sells vegan cheeses. Nuts, crisps. You can eat a lot of the same stuff. You used to eat vegan burgers, lasagnas, but I've had great carbonaras. You can go from the spectrum. So it goes from whole foods to everything you used to eat, but a veganized version.
Yeah.
And you know what's in it typically.
Exactly.
So usually, rather than just stabbing something a few times, back and get in the microwave or throwing it on the grill, you can put all of the love into it. You can sort of pick it off the shelf, chop it up, throw it into something else, make it into something that you would love to taste, and then typically you know what's gone into that.
I was reading you were a massive meat eater, so this must have been a huge step.
And I was the person. I mean, I used to work in a coffee shop, and I'd be tutting when someone would come to the counter and say, "What vegan options have you got?" I'm going, time wasting, everything else. But ultimately, I flipped it around. But I mean, it's for me. I mean, we've come today as a couple, but ultimately, having a catalyst for thinking differently is the big thing. I think that's setting the majority of people apart from making a decision like this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made the move. It wasn't something that was in my periphery at all. It wasn't something that, like I say, I was looking at all the stereotypes, wearing sacks and dreadlocks, and I was thinking, okay, this isn't going to go.
I'm not seeing many of those this morning.
But they're there, and their conceptions to be broken down. And so
does that mean that you forced him to do it?
No, absolutely not. We watched Okja, the film, and it just absolutely had us in tears at the end. We were ethically convinced immediately that there was no reason to kill any animals to eat them if we can do it healthily. And I've had a long-term health condition, and I've seen a dramatic shift in my health in the last 12 days. I've been able, I literally couldn't do anything other than my job. Like, my focus was my job, and now I cycled for 3 hours the other night after work. Yeah, it's great though, and I've just seen an amazing transformation. I just want to share it with people. I just feel really excited about that.
I want to bring in Sophie, because I want to know, Sophie, if you think, would you recommend anybody becomes a vegan? Is it healthy for us to become vegans?
It can be, but it's really hard work to make a vegan diet healthy. You have to think very carefully about what you're eating all the time. I have never recommended any of my patients follow a vegan diet. I can't see myself ever changing that. It's very complicated to make sure that your diet is safe and gives you all the nutrition that you need. I've been a nutritional scientist for 13, 14 years now. It would be very hard for me on a day-to-day basis to make sure I was meeting all my nutritional requirements.
So you think it's a case you'd have to take supplements to ensure that you're...
Most people would need to take some supplements. It's very difficult, very challenging to be fully nutritionally adequate on a vegan diet.
Do you guys all take supplements?
I use B12, but the rest of the time I've got a meal plan that I've written out so that I'm really aware of all the things that I'm eating every day. So
Preparation, isn't it?
Yeah, and I feel really empowered by making that choice, because before I was just eating whatever, and now I'm like, I need to eat this much to get this much magnesium and this much iron, and if I eat chickpeas and these beans, I'm getting all the protein.
Sounds exhausting.
I actually find it really empowering. It's really exciting.
I think it's really important to know that you can be healthy and a vegan, but you can also be unhealthy and a vegan. So there's not just a thing that say, right, I'm giving up all animal products that will make my diet healthy. So where you think about what you're having and you're including all the vital nutrients that you need, you can have a really good and healthy diet. And in fact, scientific evidence does look at more plant-based diets, so not necessarily vegan, but more plant-based diets, because you'll be including a lot of fruit and veg, a lot of whole grains, a lot of beans and pulses. These are all the food groups that the government, the World Health Organizations, that like the World Cancer Research Fund will encourage people to include more plant-based in their diets because they contain these vital nutrients. And we find that people that do follow more plant-based diets have lower rates of obesity, lower rates of cardiovascular disease. But it's very important when people are considering taking up vegan diets that they are aware of the nutrients that they could be lacking and make sure that they include foods.
And one of the important things is that if any of us or any of you spent that much time looking at your diet, whether you were looking at making it into a vegan diet or a much better balanced omnivore diet, so eating meat and fish, you would feel much better. It's not just because you've cut out all those things. It's totally because you're focusing on your diet and you're looking at the balance of your diet.
I don't take any supplements, any protein powders. I eat balanced. I don't think about it that much daily. It becomes second nature pretty quickly. And I think nature has it pretty much provided. If you are worried, you can look into it and you can take the supplements, and then eventually you quickly learn it. But it's the decision. For me, it's out of compassion. It's like you watched Doctor and you saw animals are suffering. It's no longer necessary because you can make it work. And even if it is a bit of extra work in the beginning to make it work, you're doing that out of goodwill. You're doing it out of compassion, and that is an altruistic decision in life. And I think the rewards are just grow and stem from that.
Absolutely. And I can't comment on the ethical side of things. That's not my area at all. I'm probably a moral vegan, but apparently nobody's either.
I think everyone is a vegan at heart. No one wants to, everyone's against animal suffering. You ask a single person in the streets of Britain, are you against animal suffering? Everyone would agree. It's just, what is the spectrum? Is it okay to kill it for food? Now we're realizing we're all vegan and happy and healthy. 1 in 5 are considering it. 1 in...
Yeah, I'll just pause it there because there's a lot that's just been mentioned, and I just wanted to touch on a few things before, I forgot them. So what we're discussing now is the healthy side to it all, and veganism does seem to have its downsides, its risks, should I say, where you have to be aware of certain things like your B12, just being one of them, and I think, if you remember, Stav, maybe Paul was there when we first started the Axiom Flux in season 1. We covered an article about healthy eating being a mental illness. Can you guys remember that? Yeah. Well, that came to my mind as well. And I was talking to Michael, who joined us last week on episode 3, and he told me about somebody who got sectioned several times, not for being a vegan, but for taking it to extreme where it started to affect his health, which were, a shocking thing for me to hear, that somebody's got sectioned for well, not for being a vegan, as he told me, but pretty much just for being a vegan. So that was pretty bad. But other than that, the rise of 250% in the last 10 years in UK alone, 500,000 vegan people who just eat plants and no meat, and it doesn't just stick to the eating of meat. It goes down to not using certain materials like leather and things like that. And as the guy mentioned, it's not always, somebody doesn't always choose to be a vegan because they've got a love for animals. I mean, I've come across people who've got no problems with killing animals, but they choose to be a vegan because they want to be a vegan, and it has nothing to do with, having any sort of love for animals. They just don't really want to eat it, and they don't think it's any good for them, so they choose just to have a plant-based strict diet. So that argument can be debated on a moral side. And any other thoughts before I continue the video?
Well, there, just so you're aware that I started veganism in the 80s. I was only 17, and just something clicked with me, and I followed it through. And I'm from a farmer background, and my father wasn't pleased at all with me, and he never was, because he was always trying to convert me back. 50 years later or whatever, 30 years later, he still was trying to convince me to eat meat, and I said, it's not going to happen. But yeah, so I brought children up on the diet, but I'll just let you know that from my experience from doing it in the 80s to the 90s, and then, right up to 2017, there's fatty vegans out there. And vegans don't really like even using the term vegans, where, you know, you're eating a plant-based diet and you're just doing it for health reasons to have a better quality of life. And your food, for real vegetarians, your food is your medicine. But a lot of these fatty vegans are jumping on the bandwagon, and they're just replacing Linda McCartney burgers and sausages, and that's not the real vegetarianism. Even if you look in the Indian religion, I mean, that country, like, I mean, you can get a vegetarian, vegan food anywhere, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of fatty, I mean, Holland and Barrett, I wouldn't even shop in the vegetarian stores. I wouldn't shop in Tesco's. I wouldn't buy their products. So there's a lot of good core people that eat good quality food, and we don't need to be monitoring our calories, how much vitamins we're getting, because we've been doing it that long. We do it instinctively. I mean, there's animals that eat out there, and they know what to eat and what not to eat, and we do it instinctively, but we don't follow, you know, the Linda McCartney or the stuff that they try to sell us in the supermarkets, because some of that is as bad for us, like the corn products. I mean, a lot of it is GMO products as well. So, I mean, people think they're doing good by eating these, replacing meat with the products in the vegan market, and they're not. So that's my views, and I don't know.
When you're talking strictly common sense, your body is your temple. You only get one body. And if you don't look after that body and put into it its proper nutrients, enzymes, etc., you're asking for a downfall. And that downfall can come to people a lot sooner than they think, especially while they're eating today's foods that are so intoxicated with fully full toxins.
You've got no idea what it is, really. Okay, so I'll read 10 points from this next article that I've got. And it actually goes on, you know, the term vegan and where it started. So, number 1 is the term vegan, for someone refraining from eating or using any animal products, was coined in 1994 by Vegan Society founder Donald Watson. Although it has been used a lot older than that. Number 2 is he explained the word by saying he suggested it because veganism starts with vegetarianism and carries it through to its logical conclusion. And it's also an anagram of saving me, if you jumble them words around. Number 3 is actually the word vegan already existed among science fiction writers for an inhabitant from the star Vega or its solar system. In 1940, thrilling wonder stories included a tale called A Novel of a Vegan Visitor. And in the mid-1940s, a vegan was simply a non-dairy vegetarian. Later, the term included abstinence from animal products such as leather and honey. Honey, you never really think of honey, do you? Veganism is protected under Article 9 of the European Convention of Human Rights. Number 7 is a survey this year reported that there are over 500,000 vegans in the UK. And number 8 is Brad Pitt, Beyonce and Bill Clinton, as well as Pamela Anderson, Mike Tyson. They're all vegans, and unfortunately Hillary Clinton is not. Number 9, there is a Vegans for Donald Trump site on Facebook. And number 10, an inhabitant of Las Vegas or something related to Las Vegas is called Las Vegan. Just some random facts, interesting things on vegan there. So I thought I'd share that with you all. So we got any more thoughts on the vegan life and its pros and cons to?
Well, the pro to it is if people, the term vegan or should I say plant-based foods, the byproduct of that is the animal welfare. That's the byproduct of it. And I mean, people that say, oh, vegans do this because they're fundamentalists, they don't like leather. Yes, there are some of those. It's those fundamentalists that are putting it over in such a way, because people are emotionally attached to their foods. And as soon as they start saying, oh, you should be eating this or you should be eating that, it's like telling them they should stop going out with that boyfriend and going out with another boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever it may be. They are so emotionally attached, they think they are being attacked. And if it's put over by the wrong person that are so into animal welfare, that they're so passionate about it, that they get angry with people, they're just doing themselves a disservice.
Yeah, well, I know people who've worked in these places, and you know, in these abattoirs and that, and slaughterhouses, but they're vegans. They don't. Well, not. I won't say they're vegans. I say they're vegetarians. Sorry. They eat plants. They don't eat meat, but the job is just killing animals. So I don't really think it has to really be a moral thing for someone to turn out to be a vegan. I think there's other avenues you can go down. You know, and other reasons in order to be a vegan. I don't think it's necessarily where if you love an animal, you're forced to be one. I don't think that has to be the case.
But as I say, just be aware that there are the baddie people that are just, you know, oh, I'm a vegan, but they're not really following a proper nutritional diet, and they're the ones that are giving the real vegans a bad name.
Yeah.
Said, oh, vegans are unhealthy. But there are a lot of vegans out there that know what they're doing, whereas these fatty ones are given, and they're, I mean, I knew a guy and he said he was vegetarian and all he ate was pasta and tuna. It's like, that's all he ate. I mean, I said,
yeah,
that's not it's just that they're proper dumbed down. The people, oh, I don't eat meat anymore. But then there's somebody else, oh, I only eat white meat. And they're making it up themselves as they go along. And I just call them fatties, you know.
It is an individual choice at the end of the day. Now, I'd much prefer
that there is a movement out. It has been, the vegan movement is getting a very airy fairy name. You know, and there's a lot of good stuff that does come out of eating good foods, and I think they're trying to just blacken its name and all of it. I mean, I did hear an article. I was with a friend of mine and we were listening to the radio, and we heard a couple of weeks back, a month or so ago maybe, that you know, it was an illness to be a vegan or something. Mental disease.
Yeah, mental health disorder. Healthy eating, not just to be a vegan.
Are given
healthy
real
eating,
vegetarians or real, you know, everybody's choice at the end of the day what they want to do. But you know, they're given proper people that do look after their health. I mean, I brought 2 children up on the diet, and I hardly ever visit. And we didn't visit doctors. We didn't do the inoculations. You know, and they weren't sick. I mean, they had the breast milk and that's what they needed. And once that was done, they got their teeth and they didn't have milk anymore. You know, so we knew what we were doing instinctively. But these fatty vegetarians are going along with the marketing that has been thrown at them, and they're swallowing it up. And oh, I'm a vegan, and they don't know what they're half eating half the time. You know, so yeah, just so he's aware there are fatty vegans out there.
Well, I'm on that. I'm sitting on fence really, and I guess that's out of choice as well. I could really push myself more to be towards a vegan diet. I just find it too difficult at times. And another thing is, and I've seen quite a lot of people now getting on with this veganism, and it's become a big thing where the numbers are growing quite quick. And the fear I face is, will it get to a point where it becomes legislation where meat can no longer be eaten? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. But if it gets to that point, isn't that a little bit unfair to people who want to eat meat.
We're taking people's choices away. Yeah, exactly. It is.
So how do we get about this? Because it's like, you know, it seems to be this is a topic where it's only one side. You can't have both, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, it's it's a circle. It becomes a circular argument. I don't think you're ever going to find an end solution to this. I think we're always going to have that constant divide with people who are dead against, you know, anything to do with treating animals badly or using them and abusing them for ways and means that we really could do without, you know, having to do. But like I said,
they used to go around parading the 4 coats and everything, like, you know, using their 4s.
Stav made a good point. It's the big industries. It's that what needs to. Yeah. I think it starts and stops there, really, personally.
I think it's about common sense at the end of the day, PJ.
Well, where is common sense? So where is common sense? So you mean if you're struggling to eat food, you've got to eat meat? Is that your version of common sense?
Oh, no. It's, you don't have to meet me if you don't want to. It's like Patricia. She decided.
No, but if you find yourself in a position, if you find yourself or you end up in a position where you've only got meat to eat for whatever reason, then what you're going to do? Are you going to say, right, no, I'm going to go on a food strike and I'm just going to die until I find some other source? Or are you going to eat the meat using common sense?
It depends on how whether it's made into a religion or an idealism. Even
no, I'm just talking about. Say, I don't know. You go for a walk somewhere, but you have an accident. You got an injury where you can't walk about. You can't get anywhere, and you're there for hours, days, and the only thing you've got is just this animal walking past, and that's the only food source you've got. I'm just using my imagination to create a situation. But in that moment, what would you say the common sense approach would be? Would it be to eat the animal or to starve?
Right, okay. Well, there is parts of the world where you actually do play that scenario out, say perhaps on certain African plains where you can't grow any plants. You haven't got the vegetation, you haven't got the ground, it's desert. Right, and therefore you're a tribe that happens to be put there by whoever, or you evolved there. So that tribe is not going to go around looking for plants to eat when there isn't no plants there. That tribe will be evolved on a meat-eating diet, and that's, you know, hunting the plain beasts and that's on the plains and surviving from them. So if it comes down to natural choice, whether you're an animal, human being, or whatever species you are on the planet, you will have to adapt. That, you know, we have a lot of things in this world today which are being put forward that if you don't do it this way, you're most likely to die of a heart attack, you're most likely to die of colon cancer, you're most likely to do this and that sort of thing. Right, so it becomes down to choice, like Patricia said. There's a lot. The reason why it's getting people in our government is getting rather large very quickly is because politics have grabbed hold of it. Political agenda.
That's my concern. That's why I wanted to talk about this tonight, because I don't want to get to a point where we end up with legislation being brought out where everybody has to be a vegan. You know, it's like compulsory sort of thing. You've got to become a vegan overnight, practically. Now, I think that to me could start a civil war. As daft as that may sound, and throughout everything that we've had, I think veganism and people being forced to not eat meat anymore could bring about a big change.
Well, listen, like I say, what the scenario you said was that, you know, that may actually play out in certain parts of the world if you're a tribe and you've evolved there, and that's how you've got to survive, and that's how it is. I mean, you can't go up to them and say, well, you can't eat that, you know, you're vegan, it's against the law. They wouldn't listen to you anyway.
That could be a reality one day, though, Stav. As far-fetched as it might sound, I think that could turn out to be the case in certain parts. Now, obviously, if you're talking about, I don't know, like you just mentioned, in desert areas and poles as well, like Alaska, and that, if you've ever seen any of them documentaries, they've got to rely on eating meat for certain periods of year, otherwise it just simply won't survive. But another thing that I want to mention is, what's to blame for that? Is that could we not find a way where, for these places around the world where they can only rely on meat, couldn't we like distribute them certain like vegetables and things? Is it down to a societal problem that's caused this, or is this just a natural thing? I mean, do we really have to eat meat? Is what I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it.
You can't say that to an you can't say that to an Inuit Indian.
I know that, yeah.
You know, an Eskimo or an Inuit.
Well, can you imagine?
There and say all of a sudden.
Can you imagine the food police going up to a native that were eating meat round a campfire and saying you can't eat that, only to find out they're cannibals and it's a
Well, that's it. But so what do we do? How do we get? How do we get a mutual feeling towards? I know we can't, but how can we find a source of help for this Ed the Earthling guy, so he doesn't have to go on a mad rant? And is there any reasoning to any of this? Can people meet halfway?
In areas where you can, you can come to a compromise. Where there's a lot of stuff, that's not really needed. It's just corporate greed. Let's be honest about it. McDonald's, hamburgers, and all the rest, and all it. That's just corporate greed, and that's because people have allowed of large corporate companies to own everything and enforce their diet on people. And of course, people start eating it and they only get used to eating that. So that can be addressed. Parts of the world, where they open a hamburger outlet when there's really no need for it. And also, some education is a good thing, like Patricia says about the health benefits of eating vegetables. That's the only, you've got to find common ground and common sense there where people can come together. But if you're stressing that you can't do, you've got to do one or t'other, then you're going to open it up to political agendas who are run by these big corporate cabals to enforce and push through their policies. And they'll do it. I mean, I've put on the side here, look, open-minded cooperation and celebration of diversity. Okay, that's one group. The other group is quality of individuals, competition, suspicion of social welfare programs. That was under an article I found, which is called Vegans, Liberals and Social Justice for Animals. Which of those first two do you think are vegans? Empathy, tolerance, open-minded cooperation, celebration of diversity, quality of individuals, or competition, suspicion of self-share, equality of individuals, competition, suspicion of social welfare programs. You think are vegans?
Go on, Paul.
Well, which ones are the vegans? Yeah, the first one.
Yeah. Absolutely correct. And you know why?
Go for it.
Because it's a liberal agenda. Many of today's vegans that are blowing up, unlike Patricia, who made the conscious effort to do it for her own self and for her family, which she thought was the best way for their health, these younger vegans that are growing in, tripling as a fad, it's pushed through that type of agenda. At the top. The second one's conservative.
Fully.
That is what's happening now, and it's been hijacked.
Yeah.
Now, I would have said in Trish's days when she started that, I would have called her not as because I met quite a few in the 60s and the 70s. Vegetarian. Never heard of it.
No.
Never heard of it. Vegetarians they were, and they called themselves vegetarians.
Yeah.
They didn't call us. I want to know, PJ, when this word vegan came about as a name for what, you know, I'm not a vegetarian, I'm a vegan. I want to know when that came about.
I did mention that. I did mention that earlier in it talk. If you didn't hear that.
Well, when was that date when they said it? We're now vegans, not vegetarians. What date was that?
I can't tell you exactly. I haven't got link up. It was 1994 when 1st of November 1994 was when the society started.
There you go. There you go.
1994.
There you go. I don't know. Perhaps Patricia, was there vegans when you started in the 70s and the 80s, or were they called vegetarians, Patricia?
Yeah, we would call ourselves we done macrobiotics. Have you heard of macrobiotics?
No.
Macrobiotics is grains, cereals, nuts. It's whole foods, and yeah, it comes from Japan. But there are people that are macrobiotic that they do eat meat because they say that men need that strength because they work harder, so they'll need that, you know, from time to time. They don't eat it every day, but maybe they'll eat fish maybe once a week, or the odd time some of the guys will eat meat. But just because men are, you know, they're kind of, they need that stronger protein than women do. But yeah, so we done macrobiotics. More so, we consider ourselves macrobiotic more than vegan. But vegan is just to distinguish between the people that don't actually consume any animal produce or wear any animal produce, like the leather, even buy leather sofas, or, you know, use beeswax and things like that. So yeah, they're a bit more true to their morals than vegetarians would be in that sense. So they take it to another level, but I'm not sure where how long the word vegan has been going.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, it's kind of I mean, if you take it down to the smallest detail, it seems to me the vegans, I don't know, this is all new to me, and I've learned quite a bit just listening tonight. They want to take it down to the most tiniest detail to avoid any meat products. Am I right?
Most of them. Yeah, most of them.
Vegans. Well,
yeah. Well, anything to do with any animal products, yeah?
Yeah, they won't consume animal products, yeah.
Well, every one of us return to the ground. We're part of the minerals that go back into the ground, which grows the plants. So you are actually ingesting humans, animals, because that's what goes back in the ground. So if you can't, you know, there's no way you can, there's no way a vegan can actually follow exactly what they say they're going to do when they take it to those extremes. Because you can make it, I could probably tear it to pieces if that's where they're coming from. I don't know. This is just, you know, what I'm thinking now. Because at the end of the day, you can't avoid, if you're a human being, just by eating plants. You will be consuming animal product in your own backyard. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not hypocritical because I don't, you know enough about it.
But say not all vegans are that way of thinking. Most vegans actually start off because they understand the health benefits if they eat an all plant diet.
Vegetarian, isn't it?
Yeah, but vegans don't eat dairy products. Vegetarians do.
Yeah, they don't. Vegans don't do anything. They don't have any association.
Yeah, but it seems to me, PJ, like all of these things, they'll pick and choose things sure that they fit in with their ideology, because that's what they're portraying it as now. From the videos and the articles you read, it's turning into an ideology or an idealism.
I feel that they're just gonna turn this veganism into a bad thing, and then it'd be like extremists. Yeah, it'll be the new terrorism.
They'll attack the real vegans as well, because as I said, just bear in mind, a lot of that stuff is coming from fatty vegans, you know, all that stuff that's in the media. I mean, Beyonce and all them type of people would not be my idols, you know. Paul McCartney and the likes of them wouldn't, I know they're vegans, they would not be people I'd look up to, you know, in the vegan.
I think they're also members of the Church of Scientology.
Yeah, so I wouldn't think of them as role models regarding vegans, but anybody, I mean, there was a friend of ours and he was going crazy about Russell Brand, and this guy was a vegetarian, and just to be honest, I didn't think his brain cells were working correctly, and when I saw the diet he had, it was mostly frozen foods, takeaway foods, but adapted to a vegan diet. So they're the fatty vegans, and they think, oh, I'm a vegan, and they put on their rainbow tops and they go off to these marches. And yeah, he did go off to a march up to thing, and they followed along with the rhetoric that they get on the TV. To be a vegan, you got to do this. And gosh, I was just, yeah. So there's, just be aware that I think they will turn on the vegans after a while. It'll be in vogue at the moment, and then after a while they'll attack them, you know.
Well, I think as well, the other thing that people overlook, it's a fantastic thing for the large corporates to take over and produce vegan diets to make more money and more money and more money.
It is. It's a fabulous industry to make money in at the moment.
Absolutely.
That's what you're looking for. But a lot of the true vegetarians, where you know we help other people. We don't, you know, the real ones don't look for profit for sharing their knowledge with other people to help them. You know, just help them with their diet and show them that they can get a little bit better. They don't ask for money. They just do it. You know, they are compassionate. You know.
I've always actually vegetarians back in my 70s and 80s, youth, teenager, because they were doing something at the time. I thought, well, I like my roast chicken and I like my roast dinner and whatever. Blimey, they're really, you know, I admired them for sticking to their vegetarian diet, but they didn't need my admiration. It's something they wanted to do themselves. And at the end of the day, they made the choice, and it was a healthy choice for them. They felt it was a healthy choice, which is fine. And you know, there's plenty of good...
I mean, me personally, I'd like to be a vegan just because of guilt. No, I'm being honest. I'm being serious. Like, that's the reason I'd like to be a vegan, because I could get rid of this guilt, like knowing that you don't have to be, you know, contributing to such bad things, and just that alone, just with a clear conscience for it all, just to get away from this massive headache. You know, being accused of doing this and that because you're like a beef sandwich or whatever it might be. I'm like you, Stav. I love my meats, I love my dinners and stuff like that, but at the same time, I do feel guilty for it.
Do you feel guilty being English? Do you feel guilty being born in this country? Do you feel guilty being white? Do you feel guilty because of your ancestors? Do you feel guilty for being born?
Send him down!
Exactly. Where does it stop, CJ? It doesn't, does it?
I don't think it does. No, that's what I'm saying. It's like a new form of terrorism. And
Yeah.
I do think that they are going to play on this in years to come, and you'll see it. You'll see it. You're extremist vegans and that.
Yeah. I won't be a bit surprised.
Any final thoughts for tonight's topic from any of you?
I would just like to thank Patricia for coming on, because I learned quite a bit, and your articles, PJ and Paul. I must admit, it's not a topic I know an awful lot about, and if people listen to this, they'll probably say, yeah, you proved that by what you were saying. So there we are. Thanks, PJ, and thanks, Patricia, and thank you, Paul.
No problem. Thank you very much.
And thanks for having me again, and it's been a pleasure. And my last words for tonight are, stay well, stay alert, stay world-wise, for the wise are tomorrow's torchbearers.
Yeah. Stay well fed, no matter what you're eating.